Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and conduct the roll call. Lori Blake?
Here, present, Andover.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Mike Sharon, Hebron.
Dr. Benson Clark?
Judy Benson Clark, Marlboro.
Okay, great, thank you. Mary?
Mary Kochevsky, Marlboro.
Great. Joe? He's not here. Just empty. Carrie? Carrie is not participating. She messaged me. Gabe?
Gabe Marks, Hebron.
Okay, great, thank you. Eric?
Eric Shevchenko, Andover.
Great, thank you. I'll call Sue, but she messaged me that she was not going to be able to participate tonight. And then Mike Morris, Hebron. Scott?
Scott Leslie, acting superintendent.
Penny make it? No. Dr. Sorosi is not here. And Eva?
Eva Gallup, business manager for RHAM.
Okay, great. And then student reps, Rowan?
Rowan Ackerland, Hebron.
Great, thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to public comment. Hebron, Andover, and Marlboro community engagement and attendance at Board of Education public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the Board of Education may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the Board of Education is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the Board of Education is not permitted to engage in the discussion of the comments presented. At this point, I would also like to ask Gabe if you wouldn't mind continuing to serve as the timer for us for the day. Thank you. Timekeeper.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to go ahead and invite people that are present, anyone present that would like to make public comment? Okay. Anyone online for public comment? One more time, anybody online for public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, student representative, item 4, add or deletions to agenda items.
I do have a recommendation for an addition. We did receive a resignation after the agenda was mailed out. Maureen Leone, who is one of our chemistry teachers, submitted their letter of resignation. So I ask that we add that to the consent agenda, and that would be 8.3.
Okay. So is there a motion to add the resignation of
Maureen Leone.
Maureen Leone to the agenda, to the consent agenda, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, today as item 8.3. Okay, Eric makes the motion. Gabe seconds it. We'll go ahead and do a voice roll. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, that motion carries, so that will be added as item 8.3 to the consent agenda. Any other additions or deletions for the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, student representative report. Roland, you have the floor.
So, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to basically express my gratitude to the Board of Ed members for letting me basically do what I've been doing this past year, giving these reports and basically tuning into what goes on with the Board of Education. It's been an honor to serve as a student representative, and I've learned so much through the processes that have gone through here. So yeah, I just want to say thank you again to each and every person here for letting me come to these meetings. It's been a wonderful opportunity. I look forward to doing it this year. So I know it was very short, but again, I just want to say this.
Very good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 6, the board chair report. So first and foremost, I want to congratulate all of our graduates and our eighth grade promotees and their families. I thought both ceremonies were exceptional, and both groups conducted themselves in the manner that we would hope for RHAM students, and very appreciative of the students, the families, as well as the staff, the faculty, our admin, maintenance, everybody that did everything to make those two events very successful and memorable for all involved. In general, I want to say thank you to the faculty, the staff, the administration, everybody participating here at RHAM to another successful school year. Certainly coming out of COVID and having to dive back in and try and figure out how to get back to some semblance of normal was a lot of work and effort, and I truly appreciate the effort that everybody put into it. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize those challenges and just make sure that we double down on thanking them for everything that they've done. Next, I want to talk about our student reps for a minute. So this is something I've shared with them individually, but I thought it was appropriate to share it with the board and the public in general. We were extremely fortunate to have two student reps that didn't show up and act like wallflowers this year. They were two students that demonstrated exceptional candor and personal courage and intelligence and commitment, and very definitively represented the student body in the manner that we would hope they would do so. And that's not by accident. I think that's a combination of exceptional effort on their part, some great values by their parents, so we're going to give them some credit too. But can't tell you how much I appreciate having your voice on this board and all that you did this year to make sure that we kept our finger as close to the pulse of what was going on in the school as humanly possible. And that was a direct result of all you guys' efforts. So both you and Lily, can't thank you enough for everything you've done. And Eric, I'll just ask that you pass that on one more time to Lily.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next thing I want to talk about is we are unfortunate to lose Miss Lori Blake this year. She is resigning, and I believe, Lori, this is your last meeting. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
So again, when we talk about candor and personal courage and selflessness and sacrifice and being here through all of the meetings and committee meetings and superintendent meetings and the preparation for the meetings and, 3 hours or plus, being here on Monday nights once a month are all pretty significant to ask of a volunteer. And you did all of that and more. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything you've done. And I feel probably I'm safe in saying that the board appreciates all you've done. And thank you very much, and wish you the best of luck in whatever you're moving on to do next.
Thank you, Mike. I wouldn't be leaving if I didn't get a wonderful career opportunity, and unfortunately my schedule conflicts, but I've absolutely loved serving on the board. And one day in the future, when I'm not the low professor on the totem pole at the university any longer, maybe I can fit it back in, because I certainly am going to miss it. So thank you for those kind words.
The next item is no small item. This, I believe, is also Scott's last meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so, I know that the faculty and group made an effort to thank Scott through an event that unfortunately due to COVID, I wasn't able to participate in. So I didn't get to say these things at that event, but I will share that I think we would not be in the position that we were in. We would not have had as successful a return to school. We would not have had as successful an out of in-person school kind of sustaining effort and even advancing in granted in smaller increments, but still advancing in education with our kids, had it not been for the stability and the leadership and the exceptional performance of our interim superintendent. I mean, it's a lot to ask an interim superintendent to step into a breach or the gap and fill that role in a temporary circumstance as it is. And I think you've done it for how long now?
2 years.
2 years. To ask somebody to step into a temporary circumstance like that for 2 years and get the effort and the performance and the success and the genuine dedication that we got from Mr. Scott Leslie during that time frame was Hebron and Andover and Marlboro and the entire RHAM team. We certainly got our money's worth, and can't tell you how much I appreciate your effort. On a personal note, I would not be even remotely as prepared or successful to, try to serve in the best capacity I could as a board member or a chair without all your kind of advice and I can't say how much I appreciate that either. So from myself personally, and I feel comfortable speaking from the board's perspective to say thank you very much for everything that you've done, and we wish you the best in your retirement.
Great, thank you.
And then finally, I would just say that I wish everybody out there listening, as well as everybody here on the board, a very safe and fun summer. All right, move on to item 7, report of the superintendent.
Great, thank you. It's a hard act to follow. I'd like to mirror Mike's comments, Lori, and thanks for all of your service to the RHAM Board of Ed. As Mike said, you did it with courage and really were just exceptional as a board member. I appreciate the support that you provided to our students and our staff. I'm thrilled to know that you'll be continuing in the field of education. And so I'm glad to know that although the RHAM board will certainly miss your services, as will our students and staff members and families, there'll be others that will benefit from your expertise in education. So thank you very much for all your efforts and best of luck.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
On a business note, we did have our startup meeting today with Tom Irwin Corporation to begin the athletic field repair project. Just to give some context in terms of when we can expect some of that work to begin and when the full board will be back as part of that discussion. Right now, they're anticipating that the week of July 12th through the 15th, they'll complete the field analysis. So they'll be out here, they'll spend one day per field. So one day in the competition field, one day in the baseball field, one day 316 field, and then one day looking at the track. Once they've completed that, it'll be a few weeks before they receive the soil sample results that they'll be sending to independent labs. But they anticipate that they will have had an opportunity to meet with the facility subcommittee and review their proposals in time for a full board discussion at either the September or the October meeting. So you can anticipate that either in September or October, the board will have an opportunity to review the proposals, to look at the money that we have set aside and make some decisions how much, if not all, we can accomplish with those for those jobs. It's likely that you'll be looking at either spring, summer, or fall of 2023 when that work will actually take place. A bit risky to start any jobs like that in the winter, so you can anticipate that that's the time frame that they'll be looking at it, and it'll be likely one field at a time. We've already had conversations with Dan Trudeau, our athletic director, who will be already starting to ask what are the options for each of our sports. So if they had to do the competition field in the spring or the fall, what are the implications? Where might those teams that would typically be using those fields be able to find alternative spaces? So I think right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the reports from Tom Irwin, but we're in good shape as well. One, with the finances that we have stored to cover that work, and with our athletic director working to find alternates. So I wish you the best of luck with that, and I do look forward to being able to come back and check out the new fields. And then I really would like to express my thanks on a personal note to each of you, all the board members. I've worked with a number of kind of boards and certainly board chairs. Mike, you've been just fantastic, and I commend you for taking on your role during a difficult time, not having been a board member for all that long, and you've just done a spectacular job. So I appreciate that, and each and every one of you. I know that I'm leaving the district in great hands, and I know how much each of you appreciates RHAM, and I think that's important for us as educators, whether it be students or teachers or parents, to have an understanding that our own Board of Ed fully appreciates the jewel that we have here at RHAM. And so I know that it's in good hands. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of your support. It's really been a pleasure working with you. Wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Item 8.1, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 16th meeting?
Yes.
Eric makes a motion to approve the minutes of the May 16th meeting, enclosure 8.1. Is there a second?
Second.
Mike seconds it. We'll do a voice roll call or voice vote. A voice vote. Let's put that out. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item 8.2, the retirement letter from Kay Erlinson. Item enclosure 8.2.
Yes, Kirsten has been a math teacher in the district for 33 years and submitted her letter of retirement. So
Wow.
she is retiring, and I was a colleague of Kirsten's back in the 90s, and I wish her nothing but the best and thank her very much for her 33 years of service to RHAM and our students.
Do we need to do an individual vote on each one of them, or do we?
You could do one vote for both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the next one is item 8.3, which is,
Next one is Maureen Leone, who is one of our chemistry teachers who made the decision, reluctantly made the decision to resign so she could spend more time with her very young family. So certainly understandable, and she's expressed that should, when she's ready to come back, should an opening at RHAM be available, that she would love to consider returning to us. She's done a fantastic job for us, so very grateful for Maureen's service to our students, but also understand her reasons for wanting to spend more time at home.
okay. Is there a motion to accept the 8.2, the retirement resignation of Kirsten Erlinson, and item 8.3, the resignation letter of Maureen Leone? Mike makes the motion. Is there a second? Gabe seconds it.
I would add with regret,
Okay,
friendly, if that's okay, Mike, a friendly.
absolutely, with regret. We'll amend that motion. That being said, Sue constantly reminds me of this, and I think she gives me the high sign on the video. I'm just going to say this. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Which moves us to the old business, item 9.1, and the reading of the second reading of policies, homeschool instruction and homeschooled student policy 9.1A. You want to have, do we have a policy representative? There's no policy representative on this today?
There,
I am on the policy.
All right, well then you are elected. Do we need to read through the whole thing, or can we just talk about the differences? Or-
can I highlight?
Yeah, why don't you do that, please?
If you look at 9.1A, following some of the comments we received, we did make a slight, but I would say a significant difference on the second page under C double I. Originally, that read that the student has successfully completed the coursework provided through a home instruction program that is accredited by one of the following regional accrediting agencies. So in order to have your credits transferred onto the RHAM diploma or transcript and then diploma leading up to the diploma, we limited any of the coursework that students completed as having to have been in the program accredited by one of the regionals. The language that we've changed it to is to eliminate one of the following regional accrediting agencies. So now it reads that the student has successfully completed the coursework provided through a home instruction program that is accredited by accrediting agencies such as. And what that allows the family to do is essentially take advantage of other accredited programs, and then those would be suitable to be considered for the, or to be added to the RAM transcript. And if I can put some context
Please.
as well, and I know, because I know there's strong feelings, regarding this particular policy. The one, couple of things I'd ask the board to consider. When a family chooses to have their student homeschooled, we certainly as a district will support them 100% in that process. But at the end of the day, it's really not that much different from a family who decides to withdraw their student from school to attend either private school or parochial school. Once a student withdraws from RAM, the board no longer has authority over that student's education, and rightfully so, the family takes authority. I would caution the board to really add anything to the policy that implies any board oversight regarding any homeschool programs, only because the students have withdrawn from the school, and you wouldn't want to put us in a position where a family who's putting their student in a private school may ask for something comparable, even though they've withdrawn their student from the school. And I think that the change that we made, again, it's a minor change, but it's a significant one in that it opens the door to a great deal of additional accredited programs. And I think, I know there are some suggestions that maybe we should be looking at it differently, whether it be through portfolio or to consider all sorts of programs. And quite frankly, speaking as someone who was just principal a couple of years ago, in looking at a transcript from a student that's homeschooled, the variety is significant. And a student that you meet with in the morning that may be returning has a very different looking homeschool transcript than compared to somebody else. And I think that actually putting the context of an accredited program into the policy actually benefits students coming in back into public school, because it really allows us to award credit that goes onto the transcript. I'd be concerned that if we open the door wide, you'd probably have fewer courses accepted, because once the administrators and guidance counselors are now saddled with the responsibility of judging the value of a homeschool program, I think you're likely to have fewer accepted, because quite frankly, some of them do look so different than the programs that we offer here within our own public schools. And at the end of the day, our transcript does a number of things, but one of the most important things it does is it communicates to colleges and employers the degree of rigor that RAM offers. And I think by limiting it to accredited programs sends the message that, RAM is, they know that we're a serious program, but I think at the end of the day, kind of supports what we're expecting our students who are in school to be doing as well.
Dr. Bethany Clark, I see your hand if you'd like to go ahead and add.
Yeah, just agreeing with Scott. As we've looked at world language programs and multiple things through the year, Dr. Szymanski always said we needed to be careful what a RAM diploma meant. And we know that our graduates are very successful. So I endorse the route he's suggesting.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'd like to just add, I received a email from one of our constituents who also happens to be a parent and was, provided some very valuable feedback in the previous board meeting. Mrs. Stewart, she had reached out to me with some further comments, and but I don't think she had the opportunity to see some of the newer language that was presented. And so I held off on responding to her until we had the opportunity at the meeting to present kind of the updated stuff, because I think it will influence a little bit more of her view on some of what that's there. I do think that there's some value to, and this is by no means a directive, but certainly a recommendation to the policy committee to reach out to her and get some feedback from her as we go into the third reading. If there's any reason that she may present some an alternative view that might be something that the policy committee would consider. And the reason I say that is because I think, based on some of the discussion with Scott about just the general circumstances of people going away and then coming back in, it's not terribly common. It's not something that we all have a lot of experience in trying to manage and adjudicate. And these have been some trying times where there's been some kind of crazy decisions made. And I don't want to get too deep into the individual situation, but the circumstance where kids were being pulled out, not necessarily for any reason that there was something substandard about the school system, but purely for the health decisions of their family and extended members of their family. And so those are tough decisions their families are making, and we want to be as supportive as we can. And I think that everybody's done that, but it's clearly not something that we have a ton of feedback, information, experience to draw on. And so certainly somebody who's as deep as Mrs. Stewart is and any other of the constituents that we have that have had some of that experience, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't invite them to at least provide some feedback to the policy committee as we go into kind of the last iteration of developing that policy and getting it, proposed before the board. So that would just be some advice for the policy group. And I think Carrie Ferlino had reached out to me asking if that was an option that was available to policy group. And as long as nobody presents to me a reason why they can't, I think I would advise the board to do so. So, or the committee to do so. All right. Any other discussion on the homeschool instruction policy?
Do you have another hand up?
Sorry, go ahead.
Lori's hands up.
Sorry, go ahead, Lori.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I think that's a nice sentiment, but I do want to stress that I agree with Scott's recommendation and explanation of, vetting through courses. The transcript from RHAM, that diploma signifies something. And when I think we want to be as objective and as little subjective as possible when vetting through people, sorry, my dogs are waiting for dinner, vetting through homeschool transcripts. And so I like this new language because it, I think, gives people greater options, but it still ensures that there's something standardized, there's something objective about the curriculum of which they're coming from, which maintains the integrity of what that RHAM diploma means. And I think if we get away from that, certainly if the policy allows for wiggle room for certain circumstances or individual circumstances, I think we can run into problems. I've seen it on the higher ed side when, I worked for a decade for a college that was just developing. And in the beginning, the goal was to try to get as many students in as possible and, get people on track to higher ed degrees. And in doing so, certain standards of quality measures or assurances were foregone, were looked the other way. And it definitely ended up in the end coming back to hurt the college and no longer is a practice, because once they became accredited and once they moved on, it just wasn't allowable. And you don't want to open the door for that wiggle room in a policy where something like that, even if it's for one, right? Really the amount, to me, is irrelevant. 1 or 100, it doesn't really matter. But you want to not allow that door to be opened because it compromises that integrity. And I think the way Scott explained it was really, clear. And I would agree with the policy committee's recommendation moving forward. Even when you go into a third review, I think it's nice to speak to the person. I think that's lovely. And it shows that the board wants to hear the community and certainly consider. And I think ultimately we have to keep in mind Scott's recommendations. So that's all.
Fair enough. Any other discussion?
So just as that typically at the second reading, the board goes to the motion to either approve.
Oh, I thought we went through the third.
No, this is
Okay,
second.
my bad,
Yeah,
I apologize.
So second. The board can do that, can approve the policy, and then policy committee can certainly continue to look at it.
Okay,
and
all right.
gather information.
Okay. Okay. Well, that being said, then I think under that circumstance, just I'll open it up one more time. Given that we're going to move, that we're in a situation where we should move forward to the vote on this. Is there any further comment or discussion, given that we're going to move towards the motion rather than, I apologize, I thought we were going to be moving on for a final reading.
Like I would say that I read through it and I thought that it was a very well executed modification to the text.
Okay,
enables folks to some amount of flexibility, but maintaining the accreditation criteria, which I think is important.
okay.
No more than that.
Any other comment? Tad? Okay, if that's the case, then is there a motion to adopt homeschool instruction / homeschooled student policy enclosure 9.1A?
I'll make that motion.
Mike makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Lori.
Lori seconds it. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. We'll go to a individual vote. Lori,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dr. Benson Clark,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes.
Joe's not here. Carrie, not here. Gabe,
Yes.
okay. Eric,
Yes.
okay, and Sue's not here, and I will vote yes. That motion carries with 7 votes. All right, are we second reading of the wellness policy as well?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so this next item is 5470 wellness policy enclosure 9.1B. Scott, do you want to walk through that?
Sure, and again, this is a long one, but this one really reflects the state and federal guidelines and requirements for, that are aligned with our Healthy Foods Initiative and some of the PE requirements that the state requires schools to do. So in many ways, when the board did their health, we approved the Healthy Foods Initiative a couple of meetings ago. This really takes that and defines it as a policy. And the significance is probably less on the board level as it is for the teachers in that it helps the staff better understand what the requirements are in regards to whether it be food for fundraisers, food for events. It kind of codifies what's expected of our food service operators, and in some cases our PE teachers. So there's not a lot of, I would say there's nothing controversial about this one. This one really just codifies what we already do. We actually just completed a wellness audit, and part of it is the expectation that districts are approving policies like this.
Okay. Is there any comment? Discussion? Okay, hearing none. I'll make a motion. Is there a motion to accept wellness policy 5470 enclosure, what was it? 9.1B?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Mike makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Gabe seconds that. Discussion? Okay. Similarly, we'll go through an individual vote. I feel that's important when we're talking about policy. So we'll go through the list. Lori,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dr. Benson Clark,
yes,
Mary,
Yes.
Joe is not here. Carrie is not here. Gabe,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Sue is not here, and Mike, I vote yes. That motion also carries with 7 votes. All right. Which brings us to item 10, new business. Item 10.1, general discussion regarding school safety protocols. So before I hand this over to Scott, one of the things that I'll just share with the board is that it's not generally appropriate for us to have any in-depth detailed discussions about the security circumstances or the safety protocols for the building or the school in an open forum for obvious reasons. But we did feel, given the circumstances of the latest national events, that we'd be remiss if we didn't, number one, bring some focus, re-emphasize the focus of safety and security of the building. Also, kind of redouble our efforts to make sure that we're doing everything humanly possible here at RHAM to make sure that we are facilitating the safety and security of the students and the staff and the school in general. And so in that vein, we felt that it was appropriate that we just revisit some of those things that we've kind of gone through before, and maybe just, Scott, give a general understanding of, things that we're doing, the efforts that we're making to make sure that we do that, in fact. So at that point, please go ahead.
Thanks. And, school safety is always first and foremost on our mind. I think that I can speak as administrators, we see school safety as being first and foremost anything else we do. Obviously, the teachers can't do what they do, and students can't do what they do unless they're in an environment where they feel safe. And whenever you have a situation, tragedy occurring anywhere in the country, it impacts us all, and it certainly gets us to asking the questions: are we doing enough? Certainly, following the recent tragedies, RHAM staff members were, actively engaging with the administrators, asking, could we do a better job of this? Or, are we watching out for this? Because oftentimes, as Mike stated, we don't have these types of discussions typically in a public forum. It's typically in executive session. We certainly want to make sure our staff is fully aware of what the procedures are and the processes. But there's certainly other things too, which you don't want to necessarily make public as well. So, we have had some healthy discussions at the school level. Some of the things that you can anticipate and you'll hear about happening is that we actually have 3 audits that we're preparing for in the fall. One will be in conjunction with a special division of the state police who will do safety audits. And so they'll be here with us, walking the buildings with the administrative team, helping us better understand what their feedback and recommendations might be. We'll also be doing an audit with KERMA, which is a surprise audit. And it's one of these events that we don't have control over, and we want that. We want to make sure that the information that we get is not just under controlled situations, but also under just the normal day-to-day situations. And then Colin is working with an independent auditor to do the same. So there'll be a lot of information coming in, which is always healthy. And so you can anticipate that in the fall, there'll be you'll have an opportunity to schedule an executive session to look at that. Some of the, or at least one of the items that I think the board needs to re-engage with, and certainly those of you who have been on the board for more than a few years will remember that we put a position in place to oversee security in the evening. And, one of when we moved from a more open campus to a locked building 24/7, one of the challenges we had was the afternoon and evening hours when, we didn't have RHAM staff here at all times. And we have a mixture of evening activities that may be RHAM generated, whether it be a basketball game or a concert, but we also have a lot of outside events, dance groups, Boy Scouts, and that sort of thing. So we did hire for a period of time an evening security individual who managed coming and going within the building. And there were some very positive aspects of it, and there were some wasteful aspects of it. And that position was removed just before the pandemic. And then, obviously, for particularly the first year of the pandemic, we didn't have anything going on. So there was no need for that position to even be discussed. Now that we are fully back in, we have been managing it. And so the doors are locked after hours. As you know, most evenings, Ray is there to greet you guys and let you in. But, I think the board would be wise to have another discussion about a more formal way of managing the afternoon, evening traffic in and out of the building. And on a positive note, there is money budgeted for that. That budget item has remained in the budget. So if the board decides that they'd like to implement something, even if it's mid-year, likely there'll be some funds to be able to address some of that. We have, one of the pieces that we've just completed that you'll be receiving feedback on in the fall is the student surveys that we've conducted, and some of those questions regard specifically to safety. So you'll get feedback from students, staff members, and parents on how they view safety. And, so you'll have to be receiving a lot of information. You'll have some decisions to make. And that's always a healthy thing, you know, particularly as we learn more and more about what methods work and what methods may not work. Just one other piece I would add is that we, the district is also continuing its investment in ALICE training, which is the state-of-the-art kind of best practice right now for helping students and staff remain safe should an event occur. So that will still be ongoing piece with training and practicing amongst the staff and students.
So I'll open it up. Is there any other discussion or comment?
Do we know at this point whether the students feel safe?
I can tell you anecdotally that the answer is yes. Yes. The feedback we get back from students that they do in fact feel safe.
Any other comment?
I have a question.
Please go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, Scott reminds me, I know that we don't want to talk specifics at this meeting. Was there something put in place after Sandy Hook that we could have some kind of non-meeting about safety or something? I can't recall.
I think we talked about having an executive
Yeah,
board session.
yeah. It'd be an executive session.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that same thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Any other comment? So look, I do want to take one moment just to say something, because there's lots of things that we discussed in here that I don't generally have some personal experience in, but security and safety to a certain extent are something that I have some pretty significant experience in. And quite often, I don't mean to sound dramatic, but quite often, you know, in our normal lives, we don't have things that are consequences that, you know, are life and death. But the, you know, security can in fact be the one thing generally at a school where it's life and death. And it's human nature to get complacent with security in every aspect of life. I've seen it in the military. I've seen it in security in, you know, corporate settings. It's just human nature. And so one of the things that, as part of the discussion with Scott and our expectations of our RSO and what we expect to get out of some of these efforts that Scott outlined about, you know, getting smarter about what we can do better around here and work through that as a board. You know, the easy thing, the low-hanging fruit is to just hold ourselves accountable. And not from a perspective of trying to, you know, gotcha or you know, some sense of disciplinary circumstances. I mean, you know, overt, you know, blatant on purpose, you know, violations of that's a different story. But again, it's more about just understanding that we're all human. We all get complacent. We all make mistakes, honest mistakes. And whether you're a student or a staff member or, you know, a maintenance person or, you know, a coach on a team or whatever, you know, I think we would serve ourselves best if we take responsibility for holding each other accountable, keeping ourselves diligent about just the basics of keeping the doors closed and not letting people in that you're not sure about, and you know, no propping things open and closing the windows, and, you know, all the things, not sharing things about, you know, key elements of the security that go along with school with people that have no business knowing those kinds of things. Again, I don't think anybody would wake up in the morning part of the RHAM family system and say, I'm going to do something today that sacrifices the security of the school, but it may happen by accident. And the more that we are, you know, hold each other accountable, take care of each other, and from the perspective of reminding them, hey, we're not supposed to do that, or again, it may sound very, very small, but it's the low-hanging fruit that we can all do something about today. And so thankfully, we're moving into a circumstance where we have a break here, but you know, we're going to go back into a circumstance where we have the kids here. And I think as long as we're going to have to continually revisit that, and as long as I'm on the board, I hope that at some point take a moment to just continue to remind ourselves of that, because that complacency piece is the part that gets you. So All right. Any other comments? All right, hearing none.
I just want to say thank you because I think you're completely right, Mike. And as a parent, it makes me knowing what I just heard. You know, if I was a parent just attending this board meeting, that would give me some comfort and make me feel good about who's on the board and what you're talking about and how things are being maintained from that perspective. So just thank you.
Appreciate that. Oh,
Yeah, I'll just mention that I graduated from RHAM many years ago, and when I was a student at RHAM, there was a child that was murdered. So these things happen.
okay. So item 10.2, discussion and possible action on short-term investment fund options.
Okay, so back, I believe in April, we had a finance subcommittee that we requested to see if the board and or the finance subcommittee would recommend utilizing or further utilizing our current short-term investment fund that is managed by the state of Connecticut. So 10.2 is it has the enclosure information. So currently, we have projects that are scheduled through the capital improvement fund and or the capital non-recurring fund that due to supply chain issues and or the awaiting of soil samples that are going to take a little bit longer than anticipated. And in light of the fact that interest rates in our regular bank account aren't as healthy as investing the money in a short-term investment fund, I'm asking the board to see how the board feels about depositing some or all of the funds that are just awaiting projects in the short-term period. So usually 3-month period is considered short-term.
Okay, I'll open it up first to other folks. Any comments, questions, discussion?
In reading through this, it appears as though the liquidity of the funds, they're as acceptable, if not more acceptable than a CD. Is there also an increase in the potential return on the account?
Correct.
That wasn't stated that I could see. No, you may have stated that. I'm just curious, is there an actual published return? on that? Or does it vary?
No, I couldn't find one that was actually published. So in essence, I think it depends on the day that we invest the money as to what would happen. So yeah.
Makes sense based on the volatility of the markets. Okay.
I guess the question I got to piggyback on that, is it a guaranteed return? Is this like a
It's not a
certificate
guarantee.
of deposit? It's not. Okay. All right, what, and so the history is?
The history is that it runs well. We here currently have had an account that nobody knows when or why it was established. So that 33,000, I would assume, outside of asking the auditors to trace it back for us, would go to, again, like a capital fund or that thereabouts. So it's, I mean, the money since I've been here, and it's been over 4 years, is steady. So knock on wood, we haven't lost any. So it basically seems steady. So not guaranteed, but it seems to manage, the state of Connecticut seems to manage it well. So.
And what's the time frame that you were looking to do?
So if the board were to approve it tonight, then, starting this week, we would look to make sure we know how to deposit the money in there and deposit the money that way.
And there's not a definitive time frame like a CD or anything. This is
No,
more of a,
no, it's whatever we said.
so we can invest it and pull it out as necessary. Okay.
Yeah, they describe it as a money market fund.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, right. And Eva did check with the local towns. It's common practice for the local municipalities to take advantage of this. Just because leaving it in a savings, it doesn't buy anything, at least it buys you something.
We're kind of in, I think, a strange economic point in our country right now, where both bonds and stocks are down this year. But having, and that would give me some hesitation but at the same time, you never want to think that you're smart enough to time the market. So if this is generally viewed as a good thing to do, then I would want to make the recommendation that we not invest now, because that implies that we have knowledge to time the market, which we don't have, and I don't think anybody else does.
I can tell you that when we started this discussion with the subcommittee, it was a very different financial situation as well.
So
Thanks.
the interest is sort of slowly coming back, but it's still, I mean, we still have a sizable amount, especially for the fields that we could invest in, and it makes sense.
I have a question. It's probably Eric, maybe one of the better people to ask this, and certainly anybody else on the board who has any experience with the finance committees from the towns. Any perspective on how the town finance committees would view these actions? Not that they get a say necessarily, but I'd certainly like to consider their view on it, given that the money comes from the towns.
My history is from some time ago. I was on the Board of Finance for a number of years, but that ended 3 or 4 years ago. At that time, I would summarize our savings as unorganized. We had many accounts in many banks, making. Perhaps things have gotten better since then. My interpretation was it's not out of a strategy that the money was split up the way it was. So we got money for this purpose, we'll put it in an account over here, and then money for another purpose. Next thing you know, you got 19 bank accounts. So Andover would not be an example to follow, in my view, from the time that I was on the Board of Finance.
Any other comments? Any other view?
So if it helps, I mean, Hebron did respond, and Hebron utilizes the STIP account on a regular basis. I did not hear back from Andover or Marlboro, and then 2 of the regional school districts that I pulled also utilized it. So RHAM, Old Line, so that's 18, and then Southbury.
Eva, can you just once again, because you said if the board, could you share what you recommend, please?
Oh, so I recommend that the board invest some of the money into the STIP account.
Is the sum that you're talking about the 75,430?
It would be the 75,000. That would be for the walking cooler project. Well, actually, that's unavailable. Then we also have funds for the walking coolers, because the walking coolers are going to be, goodness gracious, they're backlogged until January of 2023 at the earliest. And then again, the fields, which would be the full capital non-recurring that we put in, which was 626,000, I believe. So, I mean, the board can make a dollar amount that you want to put in there. You can ask me to research it to tell you the exact dollar amount, but anything, I mean.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the board doesn't need to decide tonight. I mean, you can, this might be one of those discussions you want to, take place over some time, because even if you made this decision later in August, you'd still have plenty of time for the money to, because it is a short-term attack.
Right, it's not going anywhere right now, so.
I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if I had just a little bit more information about the STIF accounts.
Yep.
And saw a little bit more of the history and saw the performance, and frankly, got a little bit better perspective on what's happening in the world right now. Just on an individual personal level, not certainly not speaking for the board. So like I said, open it up to any other comment or view, unless somebody wants to make a motion. I would, as one individual member, would certainly not mind seeing a little bit more information and maybe revisit this at a different meeting.
Maybe we can reach out to the Hebron individuals and find, because they have experience with it.
So I'll actually email Mr. Wooden, is it? Yeah, Wooden, to see if they can provide some investor relation type of material.
Is anybody opposed to that? Next step?
I think that's a good approach. I mean, overall, looking at the rules in which they invest, it's very conservative.
Yeah.
And they research their investments. I'd love to see a prospectus.
Mhm.
So, or even a historical prospectus.
Okay. Well, at this point, unless there's other comment or discussion, or unless somebody wants to make a motion that's outside of tabling or moving this discussion forward to the next meeting, and in the interim, hopefully gather a little bit more information so that we can make a more informed decision. Just, again, one person's input. I love the idea of doing this. I just want to make sure that we're careful with funds that I think we have some pretty specific purposes for, and I'd sure hate to come up short on that. But I would love to be able to have some extra funds to do more with it. So I totally agree, and just love to see just a little bit more information. All right, unless there's any objection to that. All right, hearing none. At this point, we move on to 10.3 in the financials.
Okay, so 10.3A is in your packet. So the net favorable position at the end of May 31st, 2022 is approximately $842,195. We need to back off the shortfall in revenue, which as of May 31st was $353,777, leaving a net favorable position of $489. And $489,118. I can speak this evening. So we're in a good position to end the school year. We still have to close out the remaining invoices that are coming through through June 30th. And we'll have more information and or any year-end transfers at the August meeting. So while our revenue did have a shortfall, mostly due to the excess cost receipts, we did see an uptick in the school rentals, so we're back in full swing there. We also had a couple of tuition, student payment tuitions that have also helped negate some of the shortfall. And we have, again, we still have the month of June, so I'm hoping that the shortfall revenue will lessen. So the capital improvement fund, there were no significant changes to report. The HVAC project is now complete, and we're just awaiting the finalization of all the remaining invoices. And then once the audit is finalized, we will have the final dollar amounts. And then again, at August, probably closer to December, we can do another transfer to the unaudited capital, the unallocated capital improvement fund. Capital non-recurring fund, we still have the DOT project that will not close out. The state of Connecticut still has not actively responded to any of the emails, so we're still waiting. So hopefully that'll be coming to a close at some point in time over the summer. We can hope. Pupil services is finalizing changes to the IEP process. So the last day of school was actually the last PPT meeting that was scheduled and held. So hopefully that didn't drive up any costs for next year. But I don't know the outcome of that because I haven't had a chance to sit down with the pupil service director to ask any questions there. So at this moment, we're still looking good. Are there any questions that the board may have based on what I reviewed?
Is, at the end of a fiscal year, would it be typical to have, let's say, $500,000 favorable?
So it depends on the year.
Sure.
So in this year, because of the bus driver shortage, and not being able to run all our buses, we're going to see more. But yes, it can be difficult because there's changes. Yes, we have changes in benefit elections. Those are usually our highest costs. We also have changes in student movement. So if we had a high cost special ed student that we brought back into the district, that would save us money. But on the reverse, you can have one go back out and be very expensive. So yeah, it can swing.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments on Eva's presentation? Okay. That being the case, we'll move on to committee reports. How are we doing for time there, Keith?
Oh, we still have.
Oh, we need to do that. I'm sorry. We have to do the, my bad. I got excited.
We're talking money here, so.
Yeah, sorry, I got excited.
Takes me a little bit. Okay, so 10.3B is the student activity count. And basically, as of May 31st, the student activity counts are in balance with Webster Bank, which is always a good thing. Are there any questions on the student activity account? Okay, hearing none. We'll go on to 10.3C. The food service monthly expenditure reports. So let's see. So the one positive is the funds for the supply chain grant were received. We received the entire $26,215. And then during the month of May, we've already expended $10,306.60 of that, leaving a positive balance of $15,909 for next fiscal year to purchase more of the items that might be higher cost due to the supply chain issues such as paper, produce, whatever else is coming down the pike that we seem to have shortages in. We are looking in very good position. Our ending fund balance currently is, as of May 31st, is sitting at $127,652. The net income for the year as of May 31st was $53,919. So I have to say that the universal free program that was running seems to have provided the district with a good jumping back point to put us back into the block. Are there any questions that the board may have on food service? Okay, so hearing none. 10.3D.
Actually, I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting, but let me just, in the same vein of trying to park the money that we're not going to be using anytime soon to earn some interest. Is there any ability to forward purchase and or think ahead about, it seems to me, based on the news that at least I read and hear, that we're anticipating, potentially greater costs moving forward that probably will impact the next school year anyway. Do we do anything about leaning forward on, purchasing from the perspective of, paying upfront for, products that we know we're going to use and potentially taking advantage of costs that they are today versus costs that they might be significantly different tomorrow?
So unfortunately, no, we did not. So what happens is to pre-purchase for next school year requires the Board of Education's approval on items. So administratively, we cannot pre-purchase for next school year with current year funding. So there aren't any items that come to light. So like the one item that what I'm trying to do with the capital non-recurring capital improvement fund is so our refrigerators from the time that we budgeted. So Michael got a quote, I believe in October, November for the budget season for the walk-in coolers to be replaced. So by the time the purchase order and everything went through, they are now approximately $13,000 more than anticipated. So we're going to have some of those ups and we might have some swing down also. So we're going to have to ride the wave.
So there's no way to take this year's budget money for 22, 23.
So we can't take fiscal year 22 money to pay for anything out of 23 without the board's approval. So had we come with a list of items to tonight's meeting, that could have been done.
But potentially for next month's meeting, the next meeting, we could do
The
that.
next meeting's in August and the fiscal
Oh,
year's
because
over.
it ends, right.
But Winston's will already start that processing, so they may be actually purchasing.
Oh.
So food
Yeah.
wise.
That's good,
Yeah.
more.
No. Yeah. So from that perspective, so we get food commodities, DOD commodities and produce. So there's items in the refrigerator that are waiting. They pre-order kind of thing,
Yeah.
but there's no vehicle to pay for that using anybody's funding. So it's just rolling, it's a cash basis. So,
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, was there somebody online that had a comment? Okay, all right, sorry, thanks, I just
Yeah.
doing it at my own house, I thought maybe we ought to
Just-
at least discuss it here.
Just one other piece of this, that as Eva indicated, the state still hasn't informed us whether it's going to be a free lunch again next year. And so we're already, looking ahead and we still don't know. And most boards of eds are having their last meeting right about now and anticipating not meeting until August. So it's not out of the question that decision may come down well before the August meeting. Colin will certainly inform the board of that, but don't be surprised if an announcement goes out to the district indicating that lunches maybe, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not announcing this now, but if an announcement is made, it may be. So some of that information may be coming out, but I know Colin will keep everybody appraised.
yeah, so during the legislative process, $30 million was allocated towards another free. But again, the state has to develop how they're using that money, and I think they're waiting for the USDA or the federal government to provide some kind of information, and I'm not sure what.
Okay, fair
I don't
enough,
know how many hands are in the pot to try to figure out that.
thank you, Eva.
So 10.3D is a CIP capital improvement and CNR capital non-recurring appropriation transfers. So basically what happens is we budget per project. Some projects come in under, some projects come in over. So currently I have this broken out for capital improvement, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different transfers in capital improvement. So the top half, which I've told that is $75,431.39, are all projects that are completed that have available funds. Yes, the 6 cents needs to be moved to. Into what we created an unallocated project fund. So basically, this is where, similar to what we have in the operating, we have a personnel, unallocated personnel line. So if money is available, it would get transferred into this line, making it clear as to what is available if the board needed to do something or if an emergency arose for capital that we might be able to draw down on with board approval, because that's the only way you can spend capital. So the board has to request that the available project funding be put into a project. So if you look at the regrading Outfield High School, which is the second line of $21,308, that money is left over from the regrading of the outfield because we never completed that project. We basically put it on hold pending what's happening right now. But as I stated, the walking cooler is actually $21,308 over budget, and we haven't even begun the project. So this is a request to transfer the $21,308 from the regrading of the Outfield High School into the walking cooler. Likewise, the $10,000 is going to be moved to the retention pond. Now, the retention pond, we don't know 100% that anything's coming over, but just for planning purposes, and we're not meeting again until August, we just figured we'd put some money as a contingency in case concrete went up, who knows. And again, there's $1,876 that we'd like to move from the outfield into the kitchen floor project, because ultimately some of that is coming in a little bit higher. Likewise, the money in capital non-recurring that's available, we would like to move to the repair of the athletic fields that basically Scott spoke about this evening, that we started off the kickoff project on that. So this is just a way to clean up the accounts, because these projects are done, some of them done for a few years or a couple of years now. So we just like to roll the money and make it copacetic, clean, and that way when someone asks how much is something somewhere, we can answer without having to do all research.
By having it in one account, we're not saying, well, you have 10,000 here, 8,000 here. We just have 78,000 that's available for the board to move to other projects, whether they be new projects or projects that may be coming in over budget. And we have signed contracts on some of these, so even the higher prices are set. So should there be further increases, we won't be subject to those. But nonetheless, as you can see, no one's immune from the supply chain challenges that we're all facing.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, forgive me, I have managed to forget the difference between capital improvement and capital non-recurring.
So capital non-recurring is what was previously 1%, is now 2%. So the money that the district keeps as per legislation.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we can only spend that money on capital.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a quick point of clarification. You mentioned there were 4 entries.
So on top, yeah, so see that whole big group is 1, that's 75,000. And then the 21,000 would be 2, the 10,000 would be 3, and the 18 would be 4. And then capital non-recurring has 1, so that's fine.
Okay, gotcha.
And just so I'm clear, all these ones listed in the collective one that goes under the 75,000, these are completed?
These are completed projects.
And this was overages from the original estimates that we budgeted a quarter? Okay, got it. Okay.
And whoever makes the motion unfortunately has to do it from project to what I have, project from project to.
Okay.
So they'll have to read each of the projects on the
Correct.
first one. So it's probably best to do 5 motions.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, is there any other discussion, concerns, comments? All right, if that's the case, then I'm gonna try and make this as easy as I can. We'll start off with the first one and say, is there a motion to move capital improvement money for the EIFS repair in the amount of $155.20 to the unallocated project, as well as $65 for the rubber stair tread to the unallocated project, as well as 6 cents from the room 123 carpet / VTC replacement to the unallocated project, the $23,986.04 from the remote access project to the unallocated project, $1,395.40 from the zero turn mower project to the unallocated project, the $33,775.75 from the competition field perimeter drainage repair to the unallocated project, the $14,003.94 from the regrading outfield high school field unallocated project to the unallocated project, the $1,050 from the drum standing gym floor project to the unallocated project, and the $1,000 from the development athletic facilities strategic plan to the unallocated project, totaling $75,431.39 in total, moving to the unallocated project. Eric makes that motion. Mike seconds that motion. Discussion? We'll do a voice vote on this. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, that motion carries. Next, I'll ask, is there a motion from capital improvement to move $21,308 from the regrading of the outfield high school field to the walk-in cooler project?
I'll make that motion.
Mike makes that motion. Second?
I'll second it. Mary?
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Moving on, is there a motion for capital improvement to move $10,000 from the regrading of the outfield high school field to the retention pond project?
I'll make that motion.
Mike makes the motion. Is there a second? Gabe seconds that. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries as well. And finally, I'm sorry, the fourth, is there a motion for capital improvement to move the $1,876 from the regrading outfield high school field to the kitchen floor project?
I'll make that motion.
Mike makes the motion. Gabe seconds it. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Do we need to do a separate one for the capital non-recurring as well? Okay, and it's similarly, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Also, is there a motion from the capital non-recurring to move $1,300 from the media weight room HVAC project to the repair of the athletic fields project, as well as $58,079.25 from the competitive field drainage project to the repair of athletic fields project, as well as $417.89 from the competitive field drainage project to the repair of the athletic field projects, totaling $59,797.14 to the repair of athletic field projects.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Lori makes the motion.
I'll second.
Mike seconds it. Is there any discussion?
Thank you for doing this.
Hearing no discussion, we'll have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no one opposed, that motion carries.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. All right. Moving on, how are we doing, timer?
We're doing very good.
Okay, so we're all right. Okay, so given that we've been a little bit short on the committee reports in the past, I feel like we'll take a little bit of advantage of the time and make sure that we open up that opportunity for anybody that feels like they need to update us on anything. So given that, we'll move to facilities. Mike?
So there was originally a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. That meeting has been canceled in lieu of an upcoming meeting coming out of the assessments that Tom wrote. So that'll be our next session. However, a little bit of homework for the facilities subcommittee. About a month ago, I'll send out a reminder. I sent out the list of all of the capital future projects. I'd like for all the members of the facilities subcommittee to please review and keep that in mind as we head into next year's budget season.
Is there, so just a quick question, is there any movement to do some sort of either a new or an updated version of that futures project?
That's some, I think, of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
once we go
okay.
through that.
Okay, good. Because I think that's how old now?
It's
So it's 2015.
2015.
Oh,
So
okay.
7
All right, so I mean, I just feel like we're probably at a point where we should probably at least do some sort of a really deep dive or some sort of, or even a new assessment or
Yeah,
something.
it's something that we're trying to talk
Okay, and I'm sure that our facilities director's probably got some pretty strong input on how he'd like to. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, great. All right, thank you. From the finance committee, Lori?
Yeah, in our most recent meeting, we just talked about the STIF accounts, as Eva presented tonight. And so I think she presented everything that we had discussed in that committee meeting.
Okay,
We haven't had another one since.
okay. I know there's no negotiations occurring at this time, but any input from the negotiations committee?
I can tell you that you will be entering into negotiations with the administrative bargaining unit this fall.
Policy. Carrie is not here. Gabe, being our senior policy representative here, anything that you need to?
Since the last board meeting, we have not had any policy subcommittee meetings, and same as facilities, there is a meeting scheduled for tomorrow, which has since been canceled, so.
And I can tell you, looking ahead, Colin, and kind of Colin is now picking up, and the next policy that we'll be looking at is one relative to announcing events in publications. So
Okay.
Colin has a policy that he's working with already in his own district, so there'll be something for the committee to take a look at.
Okay, and just an update on policy. I know I sent out a message to the board, but in reviewing the policy, the current policy committee composition, and in light of losing two of our board members to resignations, that opened up one spot there, and I asked Eric to fill the open spot, primarily from the perspective of wanting to be sensitive to the idea of having all three towns represented on things that are, key, such as policy. So with Eric joining that committee, that rounds us out as having one representative from each town, and I think that's a good balance going forward for us. And I'm very grateful for Eric for taking on the burden of adding that committee to his list. Okay, program. Mary?
Yes, we met quite a while ago. I think it wasn't last month, but the month before. Penny and Chris came and they presented some information that resulted from a school-based committee that is discussing the current senior portfolio process. They've come up with some really creative ideas, I think, to help make the portfolios more interactive and to really better showcase student learning. And the committee is going to, I believe, come in the fall to present information to the full board. So it's something to look forward to. I think it's a really exciting change that they're looking at.
Okay. Okay. Then we move on to facilitators. EastCon, Dr. Benson Clark.
Yes, actually, our meeting is tomorrow. We have a meeting, an executive session meeting. And there's a lot going on EastCon, including there will be new leadership. So Mr. David Irwin is heading that at this point. So I can update you after tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And Cabe?
Yeah, Cabe, and hopefully I know that at least two of us are going. They have the biggest meeting of the year in November. And it's once again this November. It was sent to you. If you would like me to forward it to you again, please email me. I'd be happy to do that. It covers everything you can think of: freedom of information, bargaining, money, any kind of political things out there. So it is well worth attending that, and hopefully we can have nice representation this year. I know we have two of us going so far.
Okay.
It's usually it's Friday and Saturday. It's 2 days in a row.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's move on to item 12, public comment. I always ask you this, but do I need to read this again? Yeah. Okay. Just keep in mind that the initial statement for public comment at the beginning of the agenda still holds true. Is there anyone present that would like to make public comment? Please, sir. Just please identify yourself.
Ethan Spinelli, 22 Rivendell Road, Marlboro. It's a season of thanks. They should have a special Thanksgiving for educators, maybe at the end of June every year. Feels like there's a lot going around. I just want to say thank you to the board and all the members, new and leaving, for all your work and your dedication to your communities, especially the RHAM community. You don't need to look too far to see how great a community this is. The end of the school year events, I've seen many of you there, from the concerts, evening of the arts, graduation, promotion ceremonies. They were fantastic. I want to thank Judy and any of the other board members that helped organize the mental health awareness walk. I had a chance to attend. I thank you for the invite for that. It was a great event. T-shirts, balloons, live music from RHAM students. I got to walk around the lake and catch up with some former students I have not seen in a long time. So I thank you for that. Tonight, I'm glad to hear about safety, another concern. I would agree with Scott. Our students and faculty do feel safe at RHAM. And we've always considered that this to be a safe place, but it may be time to take a look again and have those conversations. Very important. And I want to thank our administrators, middle school and high school, for all they've done to make this another successful year. We've thanked Scott enough, so I'll keep it brief, but thanks again, Scott. You've had a heavy burden on your shoulders the past couple of years as superintendent, but you've really carried on the RHAM tradition for a long time before that. We look forward as teachers working with the new superintendent and really making sure he adheres to that culture and climate that Scott's helped establish over many, many years now. So we appreciate that. We look forward to it. On a personal note, I have been reelected again as the REA president and representing the teachers. So I know summer's a slow time for the board, but if there's anything over the summer you think I can help you with, please feel free to reach out. I'll be in and out over the summer, but I'll be glad to help with anything that you might need help with. So with that, as a reminder, school officially, summertime officially starts at 5:13 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I hope you all have a restful and relaxing summer. And we've all earned it. So thank you very much and enjoy.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that would like to present public comment? Anybody? Okay, hearing none, the informational items from 13, agenda item 13 and 13.1 and 13.2 are available. Is there any discussion or comment or anything you feel like we need to just cover?
Nope, I think we covered all in terms of the end of the year events.
Okay. And then finally, I guess, is there a movement, a motion to adjourn? All right, thank you. Is there a second for that motion?
I was like.
Mike, second that motion. So motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Bye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
All right, take care.